welcome to Be Still and Grow, a space for honest conversations about faith, growth, and becoming who God designed us to be. Here, we slow down to listen, to reflect, and lean into the lessons hidden in life's transitions. Whether we are navigating change, waiting on a promise, or walking through pruning seasons. Remember, growth isn't about striving, it is about surrender. Each week, we'll explore real stories, biblical insights, and gentle reminders to trust God's plans, even when it doesn't make sense. So take a deep breath, be still, and let's grow together. I love having you here. We'd like to hear some of your stories. See you. Preparing the next generation. 7 lessons learned when God is preparing us for more. This is our final blog for the year, and it feels fitting to close 2025 by reflecting on what happens when God is preparing us for something bigger than we've prayed for, not just for us, but for our children and the generations coming behind us. Recently, while a friend shared the third principle of Kwanzaa in our group chat, I was reminded of a moment from 5 years ago. We recorded my son speaking in church about Ujamaa, cooperative economics, the, the importance of building and maintaining our own businesses and profiting from them together. Even then, the message was clear: ownership creates change. Without it, our children risk repeating the same cycles. That moment, paired with watching my children being curious, future forward, playing with robots, and exploring science kits and electric cars, has helped me to see something more clearly. Preparing children for the future isn't just about tools or education. It's about who we become while God is preparing us. This reflection ties directly into the lessons learned during 2025, because the way God prepared me or us is an indication of how you prepare the next generation. Slowly, intentionally, and often through disruption. When preparation didn't look like progress. When I came to the US about 6 years ago, I couldn't find a job. I came with a PhD, international work experience, and a strong academic background in biotechnology, microbiology, and biochemistry. At first, I was selective because I developed myself. I wanted a job close to home so I could be near my son's school. After a while, I wasn't picky anymore. I just wanted a job. This was during COVID. Jobs were popping up everywhere: testing centers, labs, short-term scientific roles that didn't even require a PhD. I could have done many of those jobs easily. However, still nothing. That was when I decided to seek God, because over the years, I've had it easy getting jobs, wherever I go. So this was new to me. And so, what do you do when what you have always done isn't working? I seek God. God sat me down. He closed the doors to the job. You see, Jesus is the one who opens doors and closes doors. And when he closes a door, no one can open it. And when he opens a door, no one can shut it. So you want him to be on your side. At the beginning of my job search, I heard a small voice. Do not look for a job. I disobeyed. I continued searching, and of course, I got nothing. Not even a reply or a response. You see, I wrestled with that. We grew up in the Caribbean, and one of the verses we often say is, by the sweat of your brow, you shall eat bread. Genesis 3:19. But that was spoken of a curse, not a promise. Are we meant to live under a curse even after salvation? So, of course, I sought God with prayer, fasting, and waiting. I heard him clearly, unmistakably, to write a book. I wrote the book. My son was away for holidays for 1 month, and I used that 1 month to write the book. Then it was time to start the blog, which I did. During that time, I was with my second child, with my daughter. And now I understand that I wasn't being delayed. I was being prepared. I had to go through this process. Now, here are the 7 lessons while God prepares us for more. You see, I thought that I was just going to be writing blogs, but He was preparing me for more, to become a consultant, which was what I wanted from the beginning, but I completely forgot. um, and a life coach. Now, life coaching was an added bonus because I did not even think about that. And that was something I've been doing pretty much my whole life. I just didn't know it. It's a natural gift. Life coaching is a calling. You can learn to do life coaching, but it is a calling first and foremost. You don't even need to go to school. Of course, you need to sharpen your skills, but it's a natural thing, right? But had I gotten a job immediately or when I was trying, I would have clung very tightly to the superficial safety because that was what I knew. That's the system. Go to school, get a job, work till 65, resign, enjoy life. My time, energy, and creativity would have been consumed building a business or even hearing God clearly would have felt impossible. So I do understand persons of my age group who have a job and they might hear me talking, they'll be like, what is she rambling about? Because they were never in my shoe, but I've been in their shoe. So I understand completely. Um, Now I could have gotten a job because I could not get a job, not because I wasn't qualified, but because God needed my full attention for what He was about to do. Now, rejection stripped away my dependence on system, forced me back into surrender. Like I had no other choice. I had to just surrender. Like, okay, Lord, because nothing I was doing was working. Eventually, I did consulting in tech, which gave me freedom and flexibility. And I wanted that. I didn't want to be stuck in some office. I work from home. Perfect. So what was the lesson here? Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. So me seeking the Lord through prayer, fasting and waiting was seeking the Lord, getting into alignment with what he wanted for me. Lesson number two, right people, right place, right time. Every dream requires this. When I went to Canada, I thought that was it. That was my destination. I was there for 5 years and I had, friends. I built a community and all of that stuff. But that too was preparation. See, Canada shaped me through pursuing a PhD in biochemistry, and it stretched me. It refined parts of my thinking, but I had to move again, this time to the US, and then pause again long enough to be situated internally as well as geographically. You see, a place is not just geographic, it's also internal. Are we at that place? Sometimes we are there geographically and we're not really there, right? I've learned that dreams are seasonal. We receive the dream in one season, we might work in the other season, and only see the fruit in a later season. And so, many people, because they don't see the immediate result from what they're doing, they might completely let it go and not take it up back. But I have learned that to really follow the leading of the Lord, because there are times He asks us to let something go and then pick it up back later on. It's not all the time, it's just let it go. And then a lot of people are afraid to let go. Now, when you do that, you have created an idol. Okay? So, so sometimes we rush to get people to help us to do the dream that we 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 envision, but we need to wait because something is happening inside of us when we wait. God is preparing us to become the person He wants us to be. And when we become that person, we attract the right people. When we rush trying to find people to get to do what we want to do, we often choose the wrong people. And then we get disappointed and may throw the dream out before it's time and lose the fruit, right? So the lesson here is there's a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. There is an assigned time, a God-ordained time for that dream to come to fruition. And nothing we do in our power can change that. Nothing. Number three, attitude opens doors, talent can't. No, my children are talented, no question. But sometimes I have to ask, are they humble though? You know? And it goes back to even my childhood because I didn't understand my strengths back then. And when persons used to ask me to help them in certain areas, I would look at them puzzled, like, why can't you just read it and understand? And so I wasn't very humble, but it's not that I didn't know myself. I didn't understand myself. That's why self-knowledge is so important because we don't know how we're moving in the world. And we might cause a lot of people offense and we don't even know. So self-knowledge, self-awareness is so important when we're on the pursuit of a dream, right? So other people interpreted my independence or so-called independence as secrecy, but it was really pride. In developed countries, especially when people are, equally qualified, degrees alone cannot distinguish us. We have to have something else. Sometimes we have our passion, other type of gifts, but our attitude is what sets us apart. Are we teachable? Are we coachable? How how do we respond to correction? How we treat others under pressure is what sets us apart. You see, God and people are watching how we steward small ideas before entrusting us with bigger ones. So in the workplace, people are watching. If you're on your own, you're creating your own business, God is watching. Yes, we must always do everything unto the Lord, as unto the Lord, because we don't know who is watching. Can we handle the weight of a big calling when we dismiss smaller assignments? Everybody want the big thing, but we don't want to do the small assignments. Often, when God is going to give us something, he give us small assignments first. But because we want the big thing, we dismiss the small assignments. Another thing is that we can be over here doing something and reap the rewards over there. And people don't understand that. So we're so focused on doing the thing here and missing the opportunities God is trying to give you over here that would really get you to where you want to get to. I hope you understand that. Now, what is the lesson here? Do everything without grumbling, arguing, so that you may be blameless and pure, innocent children of God, surrounded by people who are crooked and corrupt. Among these people, you shine like stars in the world. Philippians 2:14-15. CAB. Number 4, serve while you wait. This is important. While we're waiting, because we're going to be waiting, serve. And so in the church, I worked on the media team. I also worked in the food pantry, and I was also a intercessor. That's what they call me, like a prayer intercessor. Um, None of it came with a title or a paycheck. This isn't easy for some of us, especially those of us who grew up in the Caribbean, who often tie our service to compensation. Like, if you're not paid, we ain't doing, you know. But I learned something deeper. To whom much is given, much is required. I have received a lot. I've gotten scholarships, I've gotten to travel to places, not on my money, but on other people's money or the government's money. So I've received a lot, and to whom much is given, much is required. So my service without being paid is giving back so that somebody else can reap the benefits. We have to give back. It's a principle in the kingdom. Give and it will be given back to you. Press down, you know, firmly shaken and overflowing will fall in your lap. The portion you give will determine the portion you receive in return. Sometimes we we have gotten so much and then we get stuck because we are not giving back. That's called robbing the kingdom. We have to give back. Number 5, trust and obey. Obedience has been one of my hardest lessons. Because sometimes we believe we're obedient when we're not. You see, I was born in Jamaica, where reacting strongly, sometimes even harshly, can feel culturally normal when disrespected. But God had to confront me about this. Scriptures challenge me, to put aside bitterness, losing your temper, anger, shouting, slander, you know, along with every evil, every other evil. We have to be kind, compassionate, and forgiving to each other in the same way God has forgiven us. Even towards our children, are we shouting when you're not listening? We have to be gentle. I realized I had idols, especially my emotions. Um, Anything we place above God's instruction becomes an idol. Sometimes we say, and I notice this with people, we we pick and choose what we want to believe in the Bible. Um, and there are things in the Bible there that we should take literally, and there are things we should not take literally. So we have to learn how to read the Bible. But some of for example, when Jesus says, I leave you with one command to love one another, that is very plain. That is simple. That should be taken literally. Love one another. But we say, because it doesn't suit our ego, that is man write the Bible. Um, yes, men write the Bible, but they were inspired by God. We can't believe some things and not believe other things. Is the Bible the authority, word of God? Yeah. What do we believe? Now, for an entire year, I had to let go or learned to let go. Stop reacting and trusted God even when nothing made sense. It felt illogical and very uncomfortable. However, clarity did return after that year. So, what's the lesson? Truly, I tell you, unless you change and become like a little child, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. We have to be so obedient that even when it doesn't make sense, but maybe we're too intelligent, you know. There's also a verse that talks about um, how it's impossible for the rich to enter the kingdom of heaven. It is easier for a camel to get through the eye of a needle than for a rich person to get into the kingdom of heaven. Rich here signifies knowledge, also monetary wise, but it signifies knowledgeable. A person who is really knowledgeable in things of the world, it's very difficult to enter the kingdom of heaven. But difficult doesn't mean impossible. With God, all things are possible. So, number 6, manage your emotions and live from core values. So my son always, he tells me, Mom, you should be a therapist because you're always asking people how they're feeling and, listening deeply and all of that. That made me laugh, but it also affirms something important. I intentionally teach my children core values. Once they can repeat and understand. So those like kindness, forgiveness, compassion, family growth. But Of course, this is going to take time for them to really understand. See, they can repeat it, but can they live it? Can we master it? Living from the inside out changed everything for me. When values are clear, circumstances lose their power to control our reactions. Even my son has been holding me accountable. Like you say, Mom, well, before I understand, because I didn't always know about, core values in this way. He says, Mommy, yes, I hear you, but you gotta say it a little gentler. Yeah, my son, he very vocal. So that stayed with me and because I want to get better for my children. Yeah. So what's the lesson here? Above all else, guard your heart, for everything flows from it. Another version will say, guard your heart because out of it flows the issues of life. So we have to pay attention to how we're feeling on the inside so it doesn't come out onto people. Take the time to pause, to get situated before we speak. Because when we speak, we can hear the anger, the bitterness, and whatever else is coming out. Number 7, have an open mind. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. But he can use anything, and he can use anyone he chooses. See, God prepared me through the church, but then he sent me on my way. I had to challenge my mindset because I always thought that the kingdom was the church. Even when I was seeking God on a number of occasions, um, I went to the church because that's what we know of as children. But God is not limited to a building. God is God without a building. I think we figured that out during COVID when we could not go to the church and we had to worship from where are my true worshipers? Because we worship God in spirit and in truth. It's with our mind that we worship the Lord. We don't have to say anything. What's going on in our mind? Are we conformed to the world or to what God is saying? Renew our minds, right? So not every calling lives inside of a church. Sometimes it looks like a non-profit work, education, community building, a profitable business rooted in values, a family. That's why we have to seek the will of God and do it, not compare ourselves to others. I have learned to plan. So because of this, I've learned to plan, but to hold those plans loosely because God doesn't do formulas. That's religion. A relationship, this calls for relationship. We have to seek him and get to know him. And in our knowing him, we get to know ourselves. Self-knowledge, self-awareness. Powerful. So what's the lesson here? In our hearts, human plan their course. We always have a plan. But the Lord establishes our steps. Why this matters to our children. So when I look at my children, their curiosity, them building and exploring, and they also love adventure. I understand something deeper. The future we envision for them may include, STEM kits, robotics, electric race cars, AI, whatever. But to raise leaders of character, we must train up a child in the way they should go, grounded in values, obedience, service, ownership, and vision. Ujama, cooperative economics, community, faith in action. If we don't model a different way, our children will inherit the same cycles. Going to school, trying to get a job, going round and round in circles. And this, for me, it wasn't bad, but there are people who fall into depression and have mental illness because they are trying to do what the world says, not living from the inside out, taking on what the world says, and it's getting us nowhere. It's because of my relationship with God why I knew something is wrong here because I'm not a chicken, I'm not young. I have had several jobs in different places. And so I know when something is wrong. Do we know when something is wrong? Like, do I need to send out 500 resumes to know that something is wrong here? God prepares us not only for success, but for stewardship, responsibility passed from one generation to the next. And often, He is preparing us for far more than we even prayed for. But can we see it? Can we see the opportunity in the challenges? So keep walking, stay surrendered, and trust the process. With grace and growth, Sanchia and team.